Hey guys, this is Jamie. So today I'm gonna be talking about the elephants in the room. I'm kidding, it's not actually uh, a huge sort of topic, but I still feel like people should be nice to other people and not gatekeep. So here we are. Today I'm gonna be talking specifically about golf gatekeeping, which is something I kind of didn't expect to be as gatekeeping, but obviously with consumerism and the fact that people sort of uh, obviously newer people, younger people go into golf subculture and they sort of obviously then that makes brands want to spread anyway, what I'm trying to say is that uh, obviously because there's newer audiences who are golfs, there's newer obviously music and etc. And there's this in general sort of nostalgia for late 20th century and different subcultures because factually we lack any of substance right now. There's a lot of like keen interest in golf subculture, and obviously there's a massive sexualization of golf girls, and in general, obviously brands see this, they want to cash in. So obviously, things how I remember from my childhood or from my teenage years are obviously different than they are now. And I'm not trying to gatekeep from my experiences, but I'm trying to sort of make a throwback video in this case, sort of what I experienced, what golf friends I had, my exposure to golf culture, golf music, cemetery, since that's the big one now, and other sort of aspects. Um, so obviously, I really wanted to focus on the fact that we didn't obviously have like Killstar uh, back when I was growing up, but certain things like I don't know if how well known this is among the Europe crowd, but Phantasmagoria was a place where I would go and I would like gawk at everything and sort of be obsessed with it. Uh, so yeah, so I do remember that when I was small. I remember how it grew and then went into uh, more online, and now they're going to another location as well. So I remember all of that. But I also had more obscure sort of stores, and in general, like I've talked to my partner about this, like about his experience, even though he wasn't and isn't necessarily a golf. His cousin was a golf, and his cousin was very big in the golf scene in Brazil. So I will touch on that as well. But I guess I'll start with my exposure. So I really have to say that one of the biggest things that I find very weird, specifically when it comes to golf culture these days, is that people try to really sort of police it, sort of narrow it, specifically when it comes to music. Like, I rarely see any mentions to Finnish, Norwegian, Swedish bands. So that's sort of the cluster that I am more aware of. Therefore, that's the countries I'm focusing on. And it feels really weird that Scandinavia, Nordic countries are kind of expelled from this discussion, and people tend to focus on golf being a subculture, which is only big or sort of takes space in the Anglosphere. So obviously, I understand that the biggest heavyweights and sort of the most obvious ones are British golf bands. But when you dig a bit bigger to the surface, this is what me and my partner were discussing. People really forget that golfs were always kind of overlapped with metalheads a lot. Obviously, not all golfs are metalheads, not all metalheads are golf. but it was a massive overlap. And for instance, when you go in online spaces, people try not to talk about metal bands, or there's like discourse about certain metal bands not being enough. Uh, Obviously, there's the age-old discourse of is Marilyn Manson goth? Like even if you go on Wiki, there's, I mean, since that's the source, sort of readily available for all. There's discussion whether he was goth enough or not goth enough. Like I think he was goth enough, and is goth enough. And like for instance, from what I remember, my partner's cousin didn't like Marilyn Manson, and he kind of saw him more like calm goth, whatever. But again, it wasn't like an or do or die for him. So and so it kind of feels weird because my first exposure to goth music was literally a bunch of like Finnish metal, goth, rock bands, and the whole subculture. And it was really big back in the zeros in Eastern Europe where I lived at the time. So there was also this massive scare about your kids turning goth in Eastern Europe. And the scene was massive at the time. I was quite young, but my parents were kind of against it. And then, still growing up, my mom had a big issue because she thought that since I'm trans, um, she kind of got my queerness wrong. So she thought since I'm dressing more mask and feeling more masculine, then I should surely be a lesbian. And that's not the way it works. I'm actually a gay man, but you know. So it's like heavily forbidden through certain periods of my life where I couldn't wear, like, I didn't wear nail polish, which was black until I moved out. And even now, like, when I show my mom my nail polish, she's a sport now about my transition and everything, and kind of tends to understand now my makeup stance and everything, and is more cautious about what she asks and appreciative, which I support. But she's still sort of like, when I have dark nails polish, darker nail polish, she sort of says, "I don't like that. Why don't you go for something brighter?" But you know, so there was kind of this constant fear of the fact that if I dressed in all black, I would become like an outcast or whatever. And I was also fascinated by goth culture. So seeing people say that like Nightwish isn't like goth, or like goths don't listen to him, or like I don't know, no Marilyn Manson. I haven't seen like people talk about like Opeth. Um, Christ, there's too many there. It's just the thing is, I wasn't that big on the Scandinavian goth metal scene. But in general, it feels really weird. Or like, I remember sitting like with friends who were goth, or who were more goth than I am, if you must, like telling me like very sort of gruesome stories, or like talking extensively about Rammstein, and just Southern not goth, but there's a massive overlap. And or like there are people talking about Burzum, Children of Bottom, the 69ers, I think so. And there's a lot of sort of bands out there, and sure, I might not be able to list them all, but I'm aware that they exist, and even if they're not my cup of tea, or I haven't discovered them yet, I'm sort of aware of their importance, and it's really weird. So I guess since we're talking about music, I'll address the elephants in the room. I do not think that Joy Division is goth. And specifically, my partner has a relative, or rather, a spouse of a relative, and he grew up where Joy Division was based, and he even went to the same school as Ian Curtis. I can't remember how many years there were between. But the point is, Yeah, I remember that, and I myself met Peter Hook once. It was a book reading, but it was really weird too because I've never seen this take until very recent years on the internet that Joy Division are Goth. They were post punk, and that's sort of what I grew up with and what people saw and what you found in the press of the time. And it's really weird to people attribute Joy Division to Goth. Like, yes, the motives are there, but the music isn't exactly Goth, if you must. Just because, like, The Cure are post punk, technically, doesn't mean that Joy Division also falls into the same category. And certain other post punk bands. So I find that quite weird, and I find it weird that people really gatekeep about Joy Division. And subreddits do, and yeah, so it really feels weird that people don't look outside of the Anglosphere for that. Also, a sort of weird take I saw that was that Malchadam is the leading golf band right now, and I'm not very open to current new music, but I do want to say that I've listened to them. My partner really enjoys them, and they're good about nothing against that. It's just that they're not exactly my cup of tea. But I do see people who are goth or who would identify themselves as goth like them, and but they're not exactly goth. In the same way that I don't think that New Order is goth. Or I've seen wild takes about Depeche Mode being goth, which is absolutely insane. But so it feels really weird. I feel like people are sort of grabbing onto certain bands in the Anglosphere, just in the Anglosphere, and saying like this band is goth because I like it, and I feel like there's a lot of metal erasure, sort of heavier sounds removed from what people perceive as goth. Um, then another thing which really caught me off guard was cemeteries. There was a discussion on Reddit which I got quite taken back. Normally, I do not engage too much in golf subreddits because I just don't understand the gatekeeping. But since I'm addressing this, uh, cemeteries and goths have gone way back. I don't even know how to explain it. It was sort of like even a rite of passage. It was even in jokes. People trying to be respectful, overly respectful towards cemeteries is really weird to me, and specifically, I try to think maybe it's like from an American perspective, sort of, because obviously they don't have as old cemeteries as they do in the UK, since, you know, Anglosphere, blah blah blah. But then, like, my partner spoke, yeah, and I realized as well that in Brazil, for instance, they also don't have like ancient cemeteries. Well, as in like UK sort of esque cemeteries. So that also felt weird to me. Hell, I walked in cemeteries. That was sort of the rite of passage, sort of like the first step. And it wasn't that I've never heard of anyone be disrespectful in cemeteries, for the record. So seeing people say that you have to be respectful, not leave trash, and everything, and I just know people who are fucking in cemeteries, you know, and they weren't being disrespectful. Like, they weren't like, I don't know, throwing condom wrappers for like her. And now there's a new discussion which goes like, should you take photos in cemetery? And this feels absolutely insane to me. Because have you not been in historical cemeteries? People take photos all the time. Or like, have you seen Oscar Wilde's grave in Paris, which is with kisses all over. Um, there's a bunch of stories about Jim Morrison's grave as well. Um, there's a lot of incidents where people go into cemeteries and take photos as well. So, or there's again tourist attractions, which are cemeteries, which are places to visit to sort of see a cemetery. I mean, I understand if you're coming from the perspective of like maybe it's disrespectful in your culture, or or maybe you don't feel like it, but it feels weird to sort of take something that was there sort of forever, as I remember, and whitewash it, you know. So I don't even know. To me, it's such a given that I'm really confused by it. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was obviously in Goth culture, there's a lot of vegans on the rise, and I myself am not a vegan, but I do have to say that uh, I always sort of knew a lot of really weird meat stories when it came to Goths. I have never, until recent, met a Goth vegan. Obviously, they existed. There were the Dr. Martens, which were vegan leather. But in general, Goths always wore leather. Yes, there were Goths for animal rights, but in my immediate circle, I didn't have that. But at the same time, it feels really weird to see all these bigger Killstar brands and etc. sort of be like, yes, we're vegan. And nothing wrong with being vegan. It's just, I feel that it's a bit of too much vegan activism being pushed onto other people's throats. But then I guess, but please remember that I have a very different view on people wearing fur and leather due to cultural facts. I grew up in Eastern Europe. It was really cold, and getting a good fur coat was the solution to not freeze. So, when you're -30, you think otherwise. And so to me, I understand that I am a bit out of the loop. I can be a bit insensitive about certain topics when it comes to leather and fur specifically. So it does feel sort of in your throat vegan activism. But again, if you support it, nothing wrong with it. It's more like it's something that stood out to me as well. And I don't feel like everyone should be a vegan to be Goth. Which leads me into my further points. You don't necessarily have to follow a stereotype to be a Goth. And specifically the stereotypes now I feel like are much more narrow than what they used to be. And people sort of try to say we don't want influencer Goths, but at the same time there are carbon copies, there are gatekeeping as if they are influencers. Specifically, I feel like there's no variety these days in Goth makeup. Before it used to be different takes, different colors mixed with black, and etc. And now it feels like everyone's just Susie from Susie and the Banshees, and it's the same makeup for everyone. Maybe some soft eyeliner on guys, and that's about it. But no one really plays that much. And then generally sort of feel the same, like it's a Killstar feed. Don't get me wrong, I love Killstar, but I do have to call it out. It feels like when you're scrolling Killstar and there's like, and you swear to God you've seen the style like thousands of times, you know. So it's very strange to sort of see everyone be a carbon copy of themselves when Goth was always about being an individual, embracing the uniqueness of your experience, being an outsider, and not following mainstream. But right now it feels like people dictate and people sort of look for this golden guidebook. And I also felt to that. I guess because of low self-esteem, I always felt like, okay, I'm probably not Goth enough to be Goth. Uh, I do enjoy Gothic literature. I do enjoy sort of spiritual topics. I read very heavy literature. I really enjoy a wide range of interests. But at the same time, here I am in front of you wearing Kingdom Hearts sweater. So I really want to emphasize. And in general, like, I feel like people try too hard. Like, you don't have to wear black 24/7. But people really forget that. And then it's like, if they listen to other music, sort of like, hush hush, you can't say that in your goth circle. So, like, seeing all this nonsense, it's like, geez, why was I worried all these years? When there's literally people who think that going to cemeteries is a no-go for everyone. Or like, makeup has to be a certain way, or like, you have to be a certain sort of weight and everything. Because I did get trashed and banned for saying that goths can be any size, you know. So it's really weird when it comes back to my personal history. The people who said that I was not goth enough were literally people who bullied me for that. And like, ex-boyfriends, these are family members, and etc. So it was people who tried to make me feel less of a person. So it's kind of weird, and I guess I understand my personal aspect, and sort of, I'm against people gatekeeping. So if you identify as a goth, your interests align, you don't have to follow everything to the T. Like, you can, the basic is really enjoy music, aesthetic, goth things, and you're good. Don't let anyone dictate you, because, well, we're supposed to be outsiders. That's about it. So it's really weird to see it mainstream and really sort of used as something pretty and nice, when in reality, there's this really good meme where there's people canceling pop celebrities, and the person in the first sort of meme frame, the reaction is to cry, and then it's like two Giga Chads saying your favorite golf, metal, whatever musician killed two people, and it's like, haha, I know, it's that. It's grim. There's also fucked up things out there. Yeah. So it's nice. I mean, obviously you have to be aware of certain things. Like, certain things are bad, but certain things are not that bad, and you're just being sensitive, I guess. And yeah, I also wanted to say that my last closing thought, because I've been thinking a lot about music in general. People, I saw someone mention on a thread that gays are only interested in pop music, and in reality, you look at us and we're in every fucking subculture, baby. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry that this ended up being a long video. I was just very passionate about this topic. It was also sort of a journey of self-acceptance, which I've been struggling with recently. And if you liked it, please, like, tell me about it. Subscribe. Links down below. I'm also on Blue Sky.